Yo, what's up? How's it going? I was actually in the middle of working on the exteriors for the new act, and specifically thinking about how we're going to do this. And I was in the middle of talking to myself about it, so I figured I might as well get this video done at the same time. Okay, so I set it up more properly compared to yesterday. It looked like I was able to reorient things to get the symmetry correct, so there's no like stuff sticking out and whatever. Anyway, one thing we're missing compared to the first act is a gate to block things off. I try to make things. One of my favorite things in games is trying to be kind of immersive or realistic about something. So, one thing we had here, like in the first act, for example, is we had these gates to block it off. And we have a version of this where it's actually a little bit open because I wanted to do a visual storytelling kind of thing where you came in here and like killed this guy, and then that's why there's always like dead guys on the outside of level 2. But I also didn't want the door to be open in a way where it looks like you can walk back through it, you know? So that's kind of part of my my back and forth with myself between the immersion realistic part and also the realistic aspect of like not being able to walk through. I hate invisible walls is what I'm really getting at, if nothing else. So yeah, we had this and even though it's very small. Oh right, that's another reason too why I think actually this is probably the main reason I didn't use it. Because you can see a little gap of nothingness, which I suppose you could maybe just make a second. Yeah, but then it breaks the symmetry here, I think. Maybe not. Yeah, a little bit there. It's not obvious, but still. Alright, whatever. Anyway. So yeah, one thing was I asked Amanda to give me. I went with an iron gate is what I asked for. You know those like gated communities, or when you ever see like a mansion or a clubhouse sometimes in a city downtown. I think Montreal has a few places like this where you just got like a iron gated entrance. I figured that was most appropriate for like a 20th century architecture kind of thing. And then the other thing, oh yeah, was the roofing. That was another major one. So previously, when we made the template for this act, Amanda came up with this. Sorry, there you go. So there's this rooftop, and then there's also, this is kind of like a border for the roof. So once again, in the first act, as an analogy, we had these modular roofs that we used, made up of these corner pieces and then these longer pieces, and I manually put them on the perimeter of the level at the end of putting them all together, and that worked really well. I think it looks nice. Without it, it looked really barren before. Like if you turn these off and you're inside of these rooms during the level, it feels like you're in a floating spaceship or some shit. So the roofing was key for immersion. And yeah, that worked out really nicely. But this time when we were doing the template for this, Amanda came up with this thing that looks really cool. First of all, she made even an actual cover. So this is really what it looks like. Like this is supposed to cover up this whole thing. And then she even made some, whoops, some like exhaust vents and stuff. Yeah, like air vents. Oops. So let me move this room back a bit. Yeah, it's supposed to be kind of like that, which is pretty cool. But practically speaking, it's not really going to work because, first of all, the rooftop thing itself, like this actual covering, that could be I don't know. It could be a neat idea where maybe you walk up to the door and then that fades out. That was actually something I had way back in the original prototypes I made. I had this whole mechanic where certain rooms would have roof covers over top of them, and then you had to find, or yeah, and then when you walk up to the door of the room, it would reveal what's inside. Or actually, I don't even think it would do it if you walk up to the door. I think you had to actually enter into the room. So it was meant to be another challenge where like you have no idea what you're getting into. But I found that it was too hard for the game considering the nature of the game, and then to also have rooms where you don't even know what you're going to see and then you have to like memorize them and stuff. But I had this, so I had that system, and then I had this idea of there being a map room in each level where if you go to the map room first, it will uncover all the rooms that have the roof over top. So you can choose to either go in blind, or you can go find the route that takes you to the map room first. And then I remember coming up with different designs for how those levels could work so that there's like an optimal path that takes you, I think it was like, I think the way I designed it was the optimal path would go through the rooms with the roofs covered, and the map room would be one of the last places, so you have to go in blind. Or you take the longer path where you have to go out of your way to go to the map room, and then you can go back. But I think the design of that, I think it was just kind of against the overall design philosophy that ended up coming into place with the game being so fast paced. And also, I think I found that when I was trying to design maps around this, it was extremely restrictive, and I couldn't think of different shapes of levels and like enough variety that I could do with this. So it was like, it pretty much restricted me to like the exact same design in every single level, and I didn't like that either. So anyway, bit of a history detour there. So we could like just on the outside here stylistically keep this. It might be kind of neat. I don't know. Might be pointless though, since we don't do this in the first act anyway. But it might help to give some like feeling of being in the city or something. But anyway, so we had this roof covering, and I really like this style. I think this concrete style fits perfectly if I actually line it up here with the roofing on the outside. It looks good to me. In fact, if I grab the player, put them inside. Only thing was, oh, it doesn't matter. I was just going to say one difference is that I put the roofs on the, like these roofs, they were on the, like above everything else in the other levels, but here, this would probably have to go on top, because otherwise, yeah, actually, I don't know. That kind of works too. Either way, it looks cool and it fits it perfectly. The only problem is she made this like pre-made one just for this room, but that is going to be incredibly inefficient for making them when we go to make every level individually, because that would mean she would have to make these uniquely for every single level, and she can't even just make it room by room because it's got to wrap around the entire perimeter of the level. And our dimensions for the room sizes and these sprites, the artwork that we make, like they're absolutely massive. So the levels are like, they literally collectively they can be as big as like 25,000 pixels by 25,000, like if you were to put it all in one image, because we tried to aim for 4K resolutions for everything. So yeah, so that'd be a huge pain in the ass for her to do that. And sometimes we have issues, like slight little gaps between stuff. So if we were to cut it all up, like if I were to get her to do that and cut it all up, I don't know, I think we'd run into a lot of like small annoying things. So I think what would be best is if we did this modular thing like we did for the first level, with the separate corner pieces and long pieces. And so I asked her if she could take this exact style, but just turn it into something modular like this that I can just manually place myself when I'm making the levels so that it works the same way. But otherwise, I think it's good. The only couple other things I was looking at, and I still have to figure out, one is this. So in the first act, you can't see the door at the front. There's actually a cover that comes down over the whole thing. It's like probably... Oh, did I just come up with a solution? It's because it's essentially that. Like, there's this front roof that we had in the first level as well, but it would cover most of the door. So when you walk up to it, you only see really inside of the room. So if I were to take the room and push this down here, it's kind of like this. Yeah, like it's basically exactly this. Okay, I may have solved our problem. Yeah, maybe we just have to do it this way. Because I liked the... Because, yeah, the problem is with us showing the door, now it's kind of weird because you... I don't know. You have to take this room and then... But this is kind of the weirdness of it, especially with these levels, or with this act and these kinds of doors. But yeah, I think having like the outer facing wall and then the inner facing wall and showing the door results in this like really weird look. Which is kind of like that inside the levels when you have another room here, but I don't know. For some reason, it doesn't feel as weird as it does at the entrance here. So that's what I'm thinking. Actually, maybe the solution is to just do the exact same. Because I do like this. This is cool. But it would mean having a gap between the actual front door and then the first room you enter. And that's what I don't like about that. Because I don't even know how you would deal with that. It breaks the whole sequence I made of like you smashing through the door and then you're in slow-mo and then you come through, right? Well, like one option would be to just have maybe some kind of waiting room in here. And maybe that's where you and Genyu are standing and maybe this front door is opened. But then that kind of defeats the whole purpose of this outer area, so I don't really like that. Yeah, I don't know. I think I think we're just gonna have to do the exact same thing we did before. You bring this up to here, bring this down here, or whatever, some kind of cover to cover up the front door. Oh, right. Oh, yeah, that's another problem, though. So, okay, and then, because this was another thing I wanted to think about, was when Amanda was first making this template, she also came up with a design, and I think it was because I kind of wanted this, was like a building that's a lot taller, but you have the same problem because of the perspective. If you have a tall building, like that's going to come all the way up to here, right? And then you have the same issue. There's going to be like a huge distance between the front door and the actual first room. But I was wondering, see, what I was thinking though is what if we did something like, yeah, I'm gonna make a copy of this, and then if I delete this, okay, I'm gonna expand this ridiculously just to test this out. And then put this on top of everything else. I was thinking something like this, okay, so you have like a separate sprite that represents the second story or whatever, and so it covers up this whole thing. And this is where I was thinking then you walk up to the door and this thing quickly fades out and then you just see this room. I think that can work, actually. I think that makes sense. And then we can have a taller building like that. We can... except for the roof, though. Because that's going to look really fucking weird. That's going to look really weird to have. Because I want the roof to be on the outside here, obviously. On the perimeter of the rooms. So if I have this really tall building, the roof... Yeah, I don't know if there's any way to make that work. The roof would have to be like this, and then it's like, well, why is the building all the way up here, but the roof is now down here? Alright. I might have to keep thinking about this tomorrow. I mean, it's already going to be kind of weird because once I start adding separate floors to these levels, that's also going to be odd because it's like you go into different rooms and then the floors aren't directly on top of each other. They kind of go outward, and that's obviously not realistic. So it's kind of realism, immersion, perspective breaking regardless. So maybe it's not a big deal to just keep this like this. I just feel like it would be cool to have a totally different feeling in this act when you walk up to these buildings or when the level first starts and you look like you're going into something bigger and more modern. And she made sprites for Windows like this as well. So another issue with what I was just thinking of doing this by just expanding this thing is like that ruins that. Right? Like there's no way around it. For there to be any verticality at all and to put more detail here, which I definitely want. There has to be some extra distance here. I don't know, maybe it can work though. Like you put this building on top, or you put the sprite on top like this. What I'm thinking is you put this sprite on top like this, and then you have a roof that's just attached to this sprite. That's just like the front side. I mean, it might not even be so stupid to just like, whatever, you have this extension and it's blocked off like this. Could even have this blackness to it or turn this black part to like gray or something generic. So like this is the front face of the building and then it fades out as you come up to the door when you smash through it. And then underneath that though, you can see it would be trippy as hell and make no sense, but I think it would be cool. Like something like this. Like here's my rooftop. So I put this thing in like I was talking about, something like that, whatever. Here, I'll even squish it down to fit this thing. Right? Like, I think that looks sick. And then yeah, this, like this is what I was thinking. I mean, this only really looks all that goofy because this thing is kind of bigger than the room, but that will be made to match. But otherwise, I feel like this can work, no? Where did I put the player? Okay, we put him out here. Right, so you start the level and your camera's like this. Yeah, like, yeah, this is sick. This is so different feeling compared to the first act. Okay, I think this is it. I think this is what we'll try. I'll talk to Amanda about this tomorrow. Explain myself because it's a little complicated. But yeah, we have a taller building like this at the front. That way we can put windows, we can put signs, like all kinds of cool shit. Makes it interesting, more like imposing too, as this act gets more complicated anyway. Then you walk up to it or you break through whatever, this fades almost instantly, and I can make it fade out if you use like the view the whole map feature, or even like look ahead, and then the rest of the level will be hidden underneath, or at least this part of just the first room anyway. Yeah, that can work. And then when you come in, it's just set up exactly the same way the other levels are, like this. Only thing is when you break through this door, is that gonna look goofy? Because once you enter, everything will be, well, the roof will be. Oh, we could do this. That works perfectly. Like, it's covered up like this, and then that way the weirdness of the front entrance isn't so bad. Hell, I even asked her to make this little like bulge thing a separate piece that I could put on top, and if I can do that, then I can cover up like where the doors are, and it won't look as weird. Oh, well, actually, on the inside of the level that won't work as much, since I can't put these things inside to connecting walls. But on the outside, yeah, I can do this. Yeah, that's perfect. And that way the front door can look broken. I don't even have to put a door here. It's just covered. Okay. Alright, that's good shit. Alright. I hope you enjoyed this insight into my creative process, as I solved a major artistic problem there. More of a technical problem, really. So I'm pretty happy with that. And I shall... Let me put that up so I don't forget tomorrow. Alright, and I will contact Amanda about this tomorrow and get her working on that. And that's basically it. I did have, I guess I'll just talk about it real briefly, because I did have one thing I was kind of on my mind that was interesting. I've been mentioning how I've been playing World of Warcraft recently, and specifically Classic. And when I first had this craving to start playing this stupid game again, this wonderful yet very stupid game, I went on Battle.net, Blizzard's thing, and I was looking for a free trial. They used to have these for World of Warcraft. It lets you play up to like level 10 or 20 with certain restrictions. And I thought, you know, maybe that'll be enough to feed my momentary craving. And I didn't find anything like that. And then I thought, okay, well, how much does it cost? Maybe I'll try it for a month. And it was like $20 a month or something like that. And I know from having played many years ago that that subscription fee gives you access to modern retail WoW as well as the classic stuff. So you are almost certainly paying for the maintenance and the fees plus profit for all of these different versions, which have separate teams, I assume, and separate developers. At least I would hope so. So you're paying for a whole bunch of stuff that, at least for someone like me, where I'm only ever going to play the classic version, that you're never ever going to touch. So that annoyed me. And then I look at the different versions that are available in the launcher, and you have like 5 different versions of the game. There was like Classic, Classic Anniversary, like some expansion Classic thing, and then the modern retail WoW. And I was like, okay, so this is confusing too. So now I got to sit down and figure out like which of these versions is the one that I want to play. Like, I just want to play fucking the original. That's it, real simple. So looking at all of this, I'm just like annoyed by it. So then I remembered, well, there's always been private servers. Maybe there's a decent one running, and I ended up finding Turtle WoW, and that's what I've been playing. And based on my experience, this is by far and away the best version of Classic that exists. And they recently got hit with a lawsuit by Blizzard, obviously, because they make some money off of this. They accept donations. It's not really donations. You're essentially paying for a cash shop. It's kind of like a typical free to play game monetization model, I would say. Um, and yeah, so they're making money off of somebody else's IP. Obviously, they're going to get sued. They insist that they're going to stick around. And anyway, I just thought this was interesting because it makes me conflicted as a developer. And I was just thinking legally and ethically because, on the one hand, obviously, it's pretty lame that someone takes your work and repurposes it and then can make money off of that. Even if they add something to it, it feels like, well, you should probably be compensated for all the work that you put into it, or at least they should have to get licensing rights or something like that. So I totally understand. I wouldn't want somebody to take one of my games and then just basically resell it for free and then be making money off of that, and I get nothing out of that. Um, but on the other hand, as a player, it's way better than anything Blizzard's offering. It's way less hassle. It's straightforward. It's a much better version of like an expanded, polished version of the original game. And Blizzard, if they wanted to, could very easily just copy what they're doing, offer the exact same experience in the same way, or even just charge like whatever, $10 a month or something, and only for that, don't give me access to retail, WoW, whatever. And like, if I had that option, I would switch to Blizzard's version in a split second. Like, I don't want to be giving money to, and I haven't given them any money, but but I don't want to be playing like some pirated version if I have an alternative option. But this is a perfect example of where like in this case, Blizzard lost out on me as a customer because they just didn't give me any good options, and they made it needlessly complicated and like a shitty price and everything. And this is a case where it's really just competition, and these guys are doing a better job of offering the same thing. And like I said, it's not even the fact that this one's technically free to play. I would be happy to pay a subscription fee. I just want it to be good and not confusing. And yeah, I don't know, maybe even just let me have a free trial. They used to do that anyway, so I can at least check it out before I decide to pay or anything. But they don't offer any of these things, and so I stuck with this for now. So anyway, I don't know. I was just thinking about, yeah, I don't know, the ethical, legal, player tensions of all that. I feel like the best solution for something like this would be for Blizzard to, I mean, one of two things. Either just get their own shit together and make something good. I suppose they won't do something like this because it's not sufficiently profitable, because they put a lot of like these Turtle WoW guys, they put a lot of extra stuff into the game. There's a lot of really cool community things and new content that they make and so on, which maybe is more than what Blizzard would be willing to invest in this, considering the returns. I don't know. It's obviously profitable on some level since these guys are doing it, but maybe it's not profitable enough for Activision shareholders or Blizzard shareholders. I don't even know what the whole corporation name is at this point. Or, considering how many private servers have been made, even just offer some kind of licensing program. Like, you don't want to do it yourself, literally just let them do this and be like, but you have to give us whatever, 60% or half of your profits or something like that. And I wonder if that would solve a lot of these problems as well. And at the very least, it would be a huge PR win for Blizzard as well, because then they can be like, okay, we're not even just trying to, because that's the thing, is a lot of the people on this server, and myself included, have said, like, if in the long run they end up shutting this server down, like, I'm not going to go and pay Blizzard now, and I'm not going to go play their version, because it's just going to be a shit version of what I was just playing, you know what I mean? Like, I'm just going to stop playing. So, and I think like probably most of the people playing on that server feel the same way. But if instead, and a lot of people on there too, they just hate modern Blizzard because it's not really the same company that it used to be. And I feel like if they did something like that licensing idea I just mentioned, that would probably win over a lot of people, and it would make the people, for example, who run Turtle WoW look really bad if they didn't agree to that licensing deal. Because let's be real, they probably wouldn't even want to do that, considering they make more money now the way they're doing it. But if they had the opportunity, to be able to pay Blizzard and then do it legally. It would look bad if they didn't, you know. They probably still have players, but it would change something. But still, the best thing at the end of the day is just, I mean, it's, again, they shouldn't be able to just like take something and make money off of it, but business wise is really just a competition thing. Like, I feel like servers like this would rarely exist or have very few players if Blizzard just offered an equivalently good experience, charge a reasonable amount of money, hell, even do exactly what these guys are doing, like just make it free to play, add some little cash shop that's like purely stupid cosmetic things that fit in with the game but which don't you know, break things or whatever, and just fucking you know, and I bet you like 80% of the people playing there would be happy to come and play on official Blizzard servers and pay the fee or whatever. But yeah, I don't know. I suppose in the end the conclusion is, on the one hand, you have a right to defend your rights of stuff you've made, but on the other hand, if the reason you have to do that is because a whole big group of people are telling you you're doing a shit job with the thing you own, and they just want to see some extra work put into it, and then they'll all give you money, you should do that too. So I guess it's not all that complicated at all. All right, I'm out. Later.